Well, welcome back. I hope you're enjoying our community here, the information available. I'm Bennett Grocock, and you see next to me David Babinski. This video is going to give you an overview of the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, or the EIDL, or EIDL, as people are referring to it.
That's right. Let me just get the screen share up here. So just as a point of overview, the EIDL loan is available to the small businesses with 500 or fewer employees. And it is just that. It's emergency disaster loan. So you could use it for your bills, accounts payable, payroll, fixed debt, various expenses that are unpaid due to the impact of it. There's a couple of things they don't want you to use it for. You can't borrow money and then go give yourself a bonus or pay a dividend to your shareholders. They don't, they don't want you to pay back to shareholder loans. So it's an emergency loan to, basically bridge the gap from when the revenue stopped to when hopefully the revenue will start again.
This is not a new program. So the EIDL loans have been around for quite a while for all kinds of disasters, from hurricanes and whatever. But what they've done with the COVID-19 crisis is they've made a few tweaks to this law, made it a little bit easier to apply, and they've extended some of the benefits of it.
Right. They basically made it a little bit more approachable. Now, who can apply? Restaurants, retailers, hotels. I mean, these are the industries that were hit the hardest when the stay-at-home order started. Manufacturers, rental property owners, so landlord, basically, wholesalers. So just, a cadre of small businesses that need, some economic relief. You want to cover who can apply?
Yeah, but pretty much anybody can apply except for these types of industries. They talk about exotic dancers and other things they claim to be of a prurient interest. They won't cover legal marijuana. So even though it's legal in 18 states, since the federal government has not approved it for legalization, they will not use federal funds to aid those businesses. Agriculture programs, surprisingly, but the USDA has a whole other aid benefit for agricultural concerns. Gambling, casinos, racetracks are not eligible, and charitable and religious organizations are not under this law, but they do have benefits in other laws.
Right, there's other places to go for that. So, the special provisions, this is also called a 7A loan. Normally you need personal guarantee and collateral at very low levels. In this program, no personal guarantee up to $200,000 and no collateral below $25,000. Now there is a provision about the collateral, Ben. We were just talking about that.
Yeah. So if the loan is above $25,000, they will require collateral, but the amount of the loan does not depend upon the value of the collateral. So they say they're not going to reject your loan if you don't have collateral of sufficient value to cover the entire loan amount. So that's a benefit. They also, the one change under the original 7A loan program that's still in existence today, if you have real estate that you can pledge as collateral, you have to use it. Under the COVID-19 extension of the law, you do not have to use real estate assets. So it would just be assets of the business. You give them a UCC1 or something equivalent. So they'll say, we'll take a lien on all your assets, but it doesn't reflect the amount of the loan that the SBA would make to you.
Right. And prior to this, for one of these 7A loans, you actually had to apply for other loans and have been rejected. I mean, is that kind of how it worked? Like, this had to be kind of the loan of last resort. You had to prove you didn't have access to credit elsewhere.
Exactly.
Right. And then we already talked that it can cover most operating expenses, and there is no prepayment penalty. So they're going to give you, a low 3.75% interest rate, a long amortization schedule. But if you want to pay this off early, there's no problem to do that. So we've had lengthy conversations all day long about this, combining the, Paycheck Protection Program and the EIDL loans together, and really, the interim final rules. Now, if that's not an oxymoron, the interim final rules state that you can have both, but you can't apply for the EIDL loan for the same purpose as the PPP, right?
Yeah, there's still a lot of confusion. We were just in a group of accountants and senior professionals who were convinced that you can't apply for both. But to us, the plain reading of the language and the regs that are coming out is you can, but you can't double dip. So the money can't be used for the same things. So for example, under the EIDL loan, you can use it for payroll. But if you then apply for a PPP, it can't cover the same payroll period or the benefits. So it would have to be, your PPP would have to be for a different consecutive 8 weeks of payroll. But the EIDL can cover things like rent, capital expenditures, other bills you have to pay. So as long as you keep the funds separate, and that's why if you go to our PPP video, you'll see we talk in great detail about setting up a separate bank account and keeping those funds segregated so that you don't have an issue with PPP funds commingling or using an improper expense and then jeopardizing the forgiveness of that loan.
Right. And then this was the one that was highly publicized that, you know, within 3 days, you're going to get a $10,000 grant. And I know a lot of businesses were kind of counting on that. We talked to, you know, dozens. And then the further guidance that we received just following up on our own applications was once your application is kind of in their system and you're assigned a loan officer, then there could be an advance of up to $10,000. And then we heard other guidance that said, but it's going to be limited to $1,000 per employee that you disclosed. Follow-up question, well, how do I know when I'm assigned a loan officer? Basically, when you get an email from your loan officer, you know that they're assigned, because they're still not going to be able to catch up with, you know, I mean, just think about it. You've got a system where there's hundreds of loans being applied for a month, and all of a sudden there's hundreds of thousands. I mean, it just is
10,000 a day. You can imagine.
Right. Nobody's ready for this. Like nobody on any side is ready for this. So,
but just disabuse yourselves of the notion that we all thought and read in plain language that you apply for the EIDL disaster loan online to the SBA, and in 3 days you get your $10,000 grant. Well, it just was not true. I don't think they could implement it. And so the latest news out is it will be, the grant will be sent to your bank account as long as you filled in the banking information in the form within several days of the loan being assigned to your loan officer. So as we said in a prior video, we both submitted for our businesses in the end of March, 28th, 29th, something like that. And here it is, April 6th. Yeah. We still haven't gotten an email from a loan officer. So clearly more than 3 days, and we haven't even gotten an email yet with a loan officer. So we'll see.
Right. What's required to file? Well, they've got a special application. It's actually not that cumbersome to get into the queue, right? It's online through the SBA's website. A couple of questions. You did need to know your revenue for last year, cost of goods sold, a couple other things. But then once we imagine it gets assigned to a loan officer, they're going to underwrite this, right? So they're going to want a personal financial statement, what your balance sheet looks like, authorization to pull your tax returns. And they might even ask for a copy of them, but they'll pull them themselves is how they usually do it. And then, where we are today, year-to-date profit and loss. So that's what we're expecting is going to be required once they sign a loan officer, and we'll update this as the actuals, our actual experience changes, and we get, a couple case studies of some of the other folks we're helping.
And when we finally get notified by the SBA of our loans, we'll update you guys.
Right. Walk you through the entire, we'll show you the email and what happens there. So what about the pro tip?
Well, it is an underwritten loan, so your credit score is important. They have not told us the minimum credit score. Probably has to be in the 600s is probably a fair guess. However, there's one thing, if you've locked your credit score for some reason, they won't process the loan at all. They say they'll put it at the end of the queue and get to it eventually. That means never. So sadly, if you don't have a credit score available, you won't be able to have success applying for this loan. Right. Now, there's no fee to apply. I mean, you can go ahead and apply, but the odds are they won't look at it.
Right. There was a wave of worry about identity theft, and the credit bureaus allow you to freeze your credit, so people can't just go in and pull it and look at it. And then, with the identity theft. So, I know a lot of people went in and, they froze their credit is the term I recall. If that's the case and they, go to pull credit and it just comes back as, frozen or locked, whatever term, you're just going to go to the back of the line. So, definitely take the time. If that even rings a bell with you, contact the credit bureaus and make sure that your credit is, available to be pulled. So they
Now,
can.
this is a real loan. The PPP can essentially become a grant if you follow the requirements. With this loan, you do have to repay it. It is underwritten. And so they're going to look at your credit score and things like that. So I think it's just important that you have to demonstrate ability to repay and things like that. So it's a true underwritten loan. You don't have to pay it for about a year and has a very favorable interest rate. So it's something that we recommend that everybody apply for, and also the PPP in parallel.
Right. PPPs for payroll. And then of course the EIDL loan is where we're hoping to get that first, $1,000 to $10,000 of free grant money. So, if you're still on the fence, if you have specific questions about you, your business, your industry, come over to the Facebook private group, put your message in there. One of the experts on the team will reply. That's kind of where the real-time communication is happening. And then always be sure to stop back here in the members area and look at the upcoming schedule. We're lining up, guest speakers right now. We plan on having bankers and, other officials and other things to come join us on the webinars and the working sessions. So quick overview of the EIDL loan. Again, if you have any questions, hop over to Facebook and we'll see you there. Be safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.